Hey guys, how's everybody out there? This is Jerome Wiley Segovia with another video on Drupal development. Recently I have a client that needed me to display a number of records from a table into a Drupal block. So because this table is not a native Drupal table and it's a custom table, I decided to develop a custom module. I named the custom module a certain way, and the custom module contains a SQL query that goes out and gets the results, and in theory can display that onto the block that I created. The problem I was having was that none of the data was showing up and my page was completely blank. So what I did at that point was I enabled a devel module, and I set Drupal to display all the queries and all the error messages. It's a fairly useful tool when you're developing. It shows you a lot more information than you would get under the standard configuration. The main thing about showing error messages is instead of getting the white screen of death, you actually get useful error messages that tell you where your code is breaking and the line number. That didn't help me, so I then decided to use DPR. The DPR function is something that allows you to display a value into the message area. So I printed out the value of a couple of different fields, including the header row, including the main bulk of the content rows, into that message area, and that allowed me to see that I was in fact getting information back from the query. So the query was not the problem. I also found another tutorial page about how to display HTML tables inside of a Drupal block. That was not helpful, but I did learn something interesting about GitHub. I discovered that you can do an advanced search in GitHub, and you can actually narrow down the type of language that you're looking at, and more helpfully, you can actually filter by file extension. And so if you filter out by .module, you will only get all of that source code in GitHub that is actually custom modules or contrib modules that are out there in all of these different public repositories. At one point, I wasn't sure if I was declaring explicitly, having to declare some kind of a print or echo command or function at the very end of my module. This is the first time I'm writing a module that will print query results to a block or anywhere else on the page. So I thought I had to explicitly declare that, and I found out that if I switch my query to show 0 results, that it wasn't the case, because I was getting, it would fork over to the other side of that if statement, and it would actually show no context available. So I knew that I didn't really have to add anything at the very end of the module to explicitly print out anything. One thing that I discovered was that apparently the array var bracket equals row var, that is equivalent in terms of syntax to the array push notation. So I'll probably include that in a future video, but that was interesting to note. The answer finally, after a couple of days of looking into this and being really frustrated, was that you actually have to be very careful in explicitly declaring your header and content rows array as part of the same array. And you'll see here this is the correct way of doing it, and then you'll above here I'm typing in what I originally had. I had separated out the header variable and the content rows variable, and the theme function that's built into Drupal just is not written to handle any deviation whatsoever in terms of the structure of the array. So I was getting back an empty table for 2 days. Finally, I found this tutorial online, and they had a very, very clear definition of exactly what the syntax was to talk to that kind of built-in Drupal theme function that handles HTML tables. And so you can see here now all of the rows are showing up. I've got my beautiful table is displaying for my customer, and I'm very happy. I was finally able to get all of the results that I needed from the query results. The query was always working fine, to actually display into the block that I designed with my custom module. Thank you again for watching these videos. It's, as usual, something that helps me to organize my thoughts and to make more permanent a lot of these concepts in the way that I think about them. If you have any questions or comments, please write them to me at the bottom here in the comments.